Good afternoon and good morning. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this panel discussion on frameworks to empower your innovation champions. Well, this panel is the last one today at the IT Global Innovation Forum, so I hope we can leave you with some good thoughts. Taking an idea to market actually requires a disciplined approach, a certain mindset and specific steps, as well as a supportive environment. In this session, we will explore how entrepreneurship, mentorship, ecosystem, and smart lending frameworks can help you to develop remarkable companies in your ecosystem. Well, using the experience of mentors, ecosystem builders, and ecosystem connectors, this co-creation session will share insights about the importance of frameworks to nurture remarkable digital ecosystems. Having touched upon the community and the need for collaboration yesterday, and after mainstreaming the ecosystem and resources today, now it is time when the rubber meets the road. Frameworks are key to equip the people with the mindset they need to nail innovation projects. So today, we are going to explore the ideas, tools, and best practices that can be used as a framework to drive mindsets. So, well, the speakers in the session before also emphasized the importance of mindsets. So let's now focus on this aspect of entrepreneurship. And one more important thing, in aiming for a co-creation, we are going to use a live neural board to frame the discussion and collect ideas, tools, and best practices. This board is presented on the screen with the building blocks of ecosystem, innovation, culture, entrepreneurship frameworks. We also have preset post-its colored as ideas, which are going to be the yellow ones, tools, which are going to be orange ones, and practices, which will be the green ones. So we are going to collect the content of our discussion today in this board. And at the same time, it is also very important to mention that the community is co-creating their board, which will be merged in the end of the panel to our board. For this, we have a wonderful team led by Victoria Masso from Behavior Hackers in the background, who I will call in the end to share the results with all. And if you have any questions or ideas to include, please don't forget to raise them through the online platform in the chat, so we are going to include them as well. All right, having covered the practicalities, let me introduce our panelists. We do have 4 expert speakers today with diverse background. Let me start by introducing Niedia Cavalcante, who is Information Technology Project Manager at Atlantico Institute, a reference and research in development in Brazil. Niedia took part in the IT Innovation Challenges in 2019 and was awarded as one of the global winners of the Ecosystem Best Practice Challenge. Galina Dremova, our second speaker, is Communications Manager at the Generations Corporate Accelerator in Russia. Prior to this, she worked as an Innovation Manager at Enel Russia, a subsidiary of the Italian multinational energy company. We also have on board Zainab Khan, a co-founder of Teach a Kid, Make India Life, or otherwise known as Stockmill, which uses technology-integrated solutions to provide access to basic literacy and digital literacy. Stockmill has reached more than 1,500 children across 30 communities in Pakistan. Finally, we have on board Daniel Wins, a natural-born entrepreneur and a community member who represents the Input Program, which aims to create and nurture internationally competitive Hungarian tech startups. Daniel also enjoys solving problems, creating products, and doing customer development and coming up with business ideas. So, having said all of these things, I think it's now time to kick off the discussion. But before starting, I will need to remind you, dear speakers, that you have 3 minutes to answer each of the questions. So, let me start by the first question to Niedia. One of the things that we were discussing before the session is that design thinking is actually becoming widely known among successful companies that want to innovate in terms of products, services, and other areas of the business. Therefore, one of the main design thinking objectives is actually to create innovative solutions. So could you please explain how design thinking can enhance successful opportunities for entrepreneurs?
Sure. Entrepreneurs, startups, and consolidated companies have been using design thinking to create new business projects and reinvent themselves. The methodology helps to mitigate errors, reduce risks, and waste time and money. It looks like a miracle, right? But it's design. There are several ways to put into practice. The approach may aim to find solutions to different problems of different natures and magnitudes. For the team to be successful, first of all, it's essential to ensure that creativity is the fuel that is the part of the company's culture. To apply the concept in your company, you need to design an organizational culture and implement a change in mentality. Employers and stakeholders must develop empathy, in addition to create a spirit of collaboration and cooperation. So creative thinking can help your company to gain a large share of the market and further boost profits. Depending on the size of the company, holding meetings with people from other areas with different expertise, life experiences, and viewpoints helps to enrich the process, increasing its value and the chances of success. Lastly, a good strategy is to look into the methodology in order to choose an approach that fits best your business.
Okay, thank you very much. This was really, really insightful, and I think we can really build on that. I hope that our colleagues in the board are actually collecting the ideas that you just mentioned. So let me now ask another question from Galina. Galina, in your opinion, like what are the initiatives or tools that can be used in order to help startups at an early stage?
Hello, everyone. It's very nice to participate in this forum, first of all. From the Generation S and Corporate Accelerator point of view, we're one of the main members of the ecosystem network. And it's very important to go beyond the actual activities that accelerators do for companies. So it's important to have a network of startups where you can help them with different mentor support, with different coaching, online programs, and different activities that can help them to find the potential investors, for example. We do have, based on our example, we do have a lot of pitch sessions which are going beyond of working with the corporates. So we try to build these connections, find the startups that are suitable and that can suggest interesting solutions and find the proper investment for them. So I think it's important to create a network where you can communicate with each other. So we do have a lot of support when it comes to grants, when they want to apply for different programs, also international. We give them advice, we teach them how to do that. And when they participate in acceleration programs, we'll also create all this networking around them that can help them to build business strategy, to know how to create a proper business plan, because we do have a lot of startups which have a huge potential, but they're at the early stage and they really, really need this help that can, help them to find the proper way to how to scale up their business, how to find the partners and stuff like that. So I think this set of tools and mentor support and the ecosystem context that accelerators usually have will also be very helpful to the startups. Because they have to know that they have someone in the ecosystem where can always ask for help and ask for advice and always reach out. So I think that's one of the keys. So, yeah.
All right. Thanks a lot, Galina. I think it was really, really important what you just mentioned. But we also have another aspect which we could actually find out now. And I'd like to now ask the next question from Zainab. Because you have, I think, a totally different experience. And, since this is a global forum, we would like to collect all the important experiences and know-hows that could be integrated into our board today. So can you share us your experiences on frameworks in different ecosystems, especially in developing countries?
Thank you, Matt. And I'm glad that I'm here and I can share a perspective from a developing country's perspective. When we talk about developing countries, the ecosystem there is already a challenging one. And they're the components of ecosystem that support or gives a nurturing environment to an innovation to start from the basic and go on to the startup phase and then to SME phase is very challenging. So you have to know how you navigate your path through that, challenging ecosystem, and how you make sure that you reach that point where your idea and innovation reach your milestones, your targets. So from my perspective, in my country, if I talk about a developing country, Pakistan, yes, the ecosystem is not very supportive for innovations and ideas. All the pillars have different, pros and cons to it. The government part, the finances part, the incubators or the supporting pillars of it. And when you come up with an idea, now you have a very good idea, but how you go on further and make it work. So if I talk about my idea, it was a global challenge. It's a global challenge that I have a 22.8 million children who do not have any access to education or digital literacy in my country. And I say, okay, I have to solve this problem with technology, but do I have the funds for it? No, I don't. Do I have the grants that I can reach out? Yes, I reached out, but I didn't get that much help from that. So I thought, who could be the supporting pillars here? So then what I'm doing is that I am channeling all of the funds from where the funds are available, those people who can actually support the ecosystem, and using that ecosystem to nurture what I want to do in my country. So I'm connecting the people in US for funding properties and then enabling the children in Pakistan through that. So what's happening? I do not have something of I call a solution in my ecosystem, but I'm looking and navigating from the available resources, because as you mentioned in the beginning, that because of the COVID-19, we are local, but at the same time, we are global. We can connect around the world, right? So that's how you connect with the pillars that can actually support and nurture your idea and then connect them. So that is just a personal experience that I have from my framework, where I find a lot of challenges, but you are determined that you have to do something and make it work.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I think this is also extremely important, especially the global cooperation and framework that you just mentioned, because there are lots of mentors and best practices, or mentors equipped with best practices or knowledge which can be shared all around the world and which could help startups or innovations just to scale up and access to other markets. So I think it's very important what you just mentioned. Yeah, thanks a lot. Let me actually continue with Daniel Vince, who is representing the input program from Hungary, because I heard that there is the so-called soft landing program. And I just wanted to ask Daniel that, could you please tell me how it works and what it is?
Absolutely. Thank you, Maté, and hello, everyone. Before I answer your question, I got to tell you something. So I'm from Hungary, but currently I'm in the countryside of Cambodia. And as much as I try to find a silent place, Cambodian people really love karaoke, and it's all over the town. So in the neighborhood, there is a Cambodian karaoke going on. So if you guys hear it, I'm sorry for that, but please try to enjoy the music. Now back to your question. So basically, yeah, the input program is a government program, and the smart landing program that we developed has two main signs that I would like to mention. One of them is a more technical side, like what does it, how does it work? What kind of elements do we put into it? And the other one is the mindset of the whole smart landing program. I think that's more important, the mindset. So the goal really is to help Hungarian innovative technology companies to expand globally, to open to new markets. Now the question is, how do you do that, right? That's a really hard thing to tackle. And where most of the startup fail is like they have no idea how to go to new market. For example, in this ASEAN region, like Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand is bigger markets than Cambodia. So, how do you, from Hungary, how do you open up a market in these regions? That's the question that we asked ourselves and try to figure out how we as government can help in that. So the Smart Landing program's mindset really is to help to find those partners whose interest really aligns with our interest. Our interest is to help Hungarian companies expand globally. Now, there are organizations all over the world whose main goal is to attract foreign companies, foreign innovative companies, right? So that's an immediate match. Our values and our goals really align. So what we do is really find those partners and build meaningful relationship where, you know, we both can achieve our goals, and those Hungarian startup companies will have all the necessary help that they need. So, you know, if I talk a little bit about the technical parts, like how it looks like, we actually do a very detailed country study. We write down how, you know, the generic information of the economics of a specific country, how to launch a business there, how to start, how to incorporate a company, how taxation works, all that stuff, what are the main industries in the country. So really startups can learn about the country, learn really in depth on how they can actually enter that market. And in each specific area, whether it's legal work or even marketing, we find those partners who we validate, we test, we know that those companies can trust and can work with. So it's not that they just try to go to a country, they have no idea what is going on. We take their hands, we walk the whole journey with them, and we introduce them to those partners who can really help them understand the market and go to that market. I don't know how much time I have left from the 3 minutes, so I don't want to talk too much. I'll talk more about it later if we have some time.
All right, thanks a lot. I think you had some time, but we can fill it in later on. So, but to me, this actually boils down to networking and global networking, but not only networking in a regular meaning, but this did sound like to me as a targeted and very, very specific networking based on real data, which I think is extremely useful today. But let's go back to a couple of other ideas, because we also have a lot of other things actually to discuss. Because, for instance, business modeling is one of the primary steps in creating innovative businesses, and it is very significant to any business segment. And unfortunately, many people ignore the value of this process and end up getting lost along the way. And I just wanted to ask this question from Nidia, that could you please suggest any business modeling methodology that has been supporting startups successfully? What is your experience about business modeling?
Sure, I could mention a couple, but I'm gonna focus on one of that I think that's very relevant. The techniques that are being used to work in startups ideas, it's the one I'm gonna discuss here is the Lean Canvas. It's a tool derived from the business model canvas, whose main function is to develop new business models or adjust existing business models. The Lean Canvas framework has a great focus on hypotheses that needs to be validated early in the life of a startup. So it's ideal for the time when the business is emerging and has not yet been tested its assumptions. This is a time to analyze in more depth the problems that the market presents and to structure the solution offered by the startup in a better way, finding the best result in that equation. The Lean Canvas also aims to help entrepreneurs who are starting a new business not to waste so much time or money learning from the experience of the market. I'm so sorry, here it's kind of noisy too. It's with the Lean Canvas framework too that you are able to evaluate competitive advantages of your startup. With the joint analysis of the market and the solution offered, it's easier to find the point that would make your business stand out among so many others and become successful.
Okay,
I hope the noise wasn't too loud.
No, it was actually great. But I think this, this gives us a real co-creation spirit that, that we have these background noises and everything. So I think this is just normal. So thanks a lot for your inputs. And yeah, actually Lean Canvas is one of the most widely used tools recently. I would even say that it's a bit hyped, but at the same time, there are many other tools. And I just wanted to ask Zainab that, what do you think? Is there a universal framework for all innovation? Can we say that such a thing exists?
Oh, well, that was something that was I pondering upon when I got the invite for the session, and I looked up some things. But then when I looked up different frameworks, I got to the conclusion that no, there is no universal framework. And even one framework would work best for one kind of innovation on one ecosystem, but in another ecosystem maybe, or another environment in another country or developing country, the cultural setting, the local setting, the market, how the market works there must be a lot of components that can be integrated into that framework. So the answer to this is that no, I don't think so. There is any universal ecosystem. Lean Canvas, I worked on it and I really enjoyed it, putting all the ideas there and making it, getting to the final point where I knew that where I stand on my startup and my idea and my innovation. But I really think that there could be some more points that can be added to it and, get the bigger picture of it and envision it in the long run, okay, in 5 years where I see myself. So I think, yes, every ecosystem can have some adaptations, and the frameworks needs adaptations accordingly. That's what I believe.
And do you think that the frameworks can be merged into each other? So, like, can we, for instance, make a tailor made framework to a specific business case or scenario or a specific innovation problem?
Well, I think that the idea is that when you have an idea at the beginning, you can experience with 1 or 2 frameworks or 3 frameworks, and you see which one actually works for you best. When you are working on some framework, you know how much convenient you are seeing your idea transforming into a framework and words and all of that business model. The framework that works best for you is the one that you will adopt eventually. But there could be a point where you could see, okay, this components of this particular framework works best for me, but now this part is good in this, let's merge them together. And when you merge them together, you get something new that is tailor-made for your own self, and you're very satisfied with it, and you're saying, okay, now I think it makes sense for me, more sense for me. So I think, yes, one needs to experiment with different frameworks in order to see which works best for them in their own case.
All right, thank you, because I also believe that this should be one of the ways forward. So thanks a lot for sharing this with us. Galina, let me ask another question from you now, because now we've been talking about frameworks, tools, and ideas, but you are doing so many things in your accelerator program. But can you mention, please, a couple of examples, like what other help can provide an accelerator to startups?
Okay. So I have a really good examples. I'm going to share with you. First of all, when we talk about startups, we do have our own network. We called it Alumni Club. So that's the startups who passed the acceleration programs that we have before with the companies. So we try to communicate with them, not on a daily basis, but constantly keep communicating and suggest different tools and programs and stuff like that. So one of the things that we do have workshops when they all gather together and they have a chance to share about their project. And sometimes we can witness how 2 startups can combine their solutions into one technology and then offer that to the company or something like that. For example, I'm not going to mention the names of the startups or the companies, but for example, there was one solution which was providing like in-pipe diagnostic. There was like a robot that was going through the pipe and just trying to detect if it's okay or not. And then there is another technology which was related to solar panels, like innovative coating. So there was an idea, what if we combine these 2 projects together? So there could be a robot which go through the pipes and sprinkles this innovative coating, for the pipes to be okay and not to be destroyed with the time. So I think the networking that we have inside our accelerator, not only like with all the startups, but I'm talking about our alumni. So it's also very important. So they can share their ideas and then they come up with something absolutely new. And I think that was a really, really good example of how they can work together and create something new. Also, we do have pitch sessions, and we do have them not only within the framework of the acceleration program, but there's a specific request that we can get from the ecosystem representative. For example, like French Chamber of Commerce, they asked us, oh guys, if you have any startups, in this and this field with this and this technology, because we're interested. And we were like, yes, why not? We can help you, we can find the startups, and then they can offer you a solution. So it's something like that. So they always know, we are one of the ecosystem builders, and it's important that startups, companies, universities, they know who they need to ask if they need something that is related to innovation, ecosystem development, and stuff like that. So, was it 3 minutes?
Yeah, I think it was. Thanks a lot. I think it was, again, a very, very important insight to what we've been discussing today. Let me fire the next question to Daniel, because I know that you've been working with a lot of companies, and you use a lot of frameworks. And could you please tell us a story or a company that you worked with, and an example, like how did you help them with the framework or with the framework?
Oh yeah, sure. Let me just. I have so many things that I want to tell you guys, reflecting to what Galina and the other speakers said. But I'll try to keep on track and try to answer your question, Maté, and hopefully we'll have some chance to refer back to these things that the others are saying, because there's a lot of. Yeah.
Please do refer back. Yeah.
Oh,
please
thank
do refer
you.
back to the other things, because it should be an open discussion. So
very good.
Let's start chatting.
Thank you. No, so I'll get back to your question, I promise. But I think it's, what Galina just said about the alumni network, for example, I think that is crucial, so basically my experience so I'm an entrepreneur, but then I work together with the Hungarian government as the input program, right? And what we saw oftentimes when we reached out to startups, they were always like, oh, you're government, what do you know about startups? So we always had to tell them, like, guys, we are a startup, basically. I'm a startup founder. Believe me that we can help you. We can, do that, all this stuff. But when the alumni network comes in, really is, I think startups and startup founders are the best mentor that you can have is not someone who is light years ahead of you and very successful and have built already a gazillion businesses, and they are too far. So the best mentor for early stage startups are really those people who are just a few steps ahead of them, because they really understand what that very early stage startup is going through. And then you can find these hidden gems in the alumni network, because they just went through the program, they try the tools, they know what works, they know what doesn't work for them, and they can really be very helpful for these young entrepreneurs. So yeah, I love what you said, Galina, about that. Now, when it comes to frameworks, let me refer to that as well a tiny bit. There's so many good frameworks out there, and it's good to use all of them or many of them. But the real question, I think, is okay, you got the lean canvas or the business model canvas. The whole team comes together, they feel it out. That's nice. That's step number one, right? And that's an important step, but that's still the first step. Now, the real question is, what do you do with that information, that data that you actually put into that framework? And how do you, systematically, because everything you put on the canvas is just a hypothesis, right? You think that's how the market works. You think that people would buy that product. That's all hypothesis. And I think what most of the startup does not do or do not do is then systematically go through all of those hypotheses and check them. Is it true? Is it not? Or were we right? Were we not? Do we keep this? Do we trash it? And very, very systematically going through each and all elements of the canvas and validate it and learn from it. So the real value of the canvas is actually when people start to use it, really. So I just wanted to emphasize that. Do I have 2 minutes to share a quick story of to answering your question, Maté?
Yeah, I think please do.
Thank you. Try to be quick. So this is a quite recent story, and it again really shows the value of the network and the value of the relationships. So there is one Hungarian very, very interesting technology, which is quite deep tech, high tech. It's really hard to grasp how you can actually use it in a real world scenario. You know, it has to do something with robotics and AI and all the kind of stuff. I don't want to say too much about it. So what we did is we figured, okay, we have an idea of how we could, do the first beta version where we can actually test real life scenarios. But we do believe that there are a lot of other people out there in the world who are smarter than we are or think differently than we are. So we reached out to a network and launched a program together with one of our partners, the Ichi Foundation. We call the program the Maté program. So we collected 20 young people from 14 different nationalities. And then we ran them through an 8 weeks long program. Every week we had a call with them, and we had a speaker coming in talking about the technology, but also business model canvas, and also, about different interesting things. And we put them into teams. These are university students or somewhere between 20 to 30 years of age. They don't know each other, right? They're from 14 different countries. So we put them into teams and we gave them the challenge, like, hey, you figure this out. Like, we give you a question, you got 8 weeks, we give you some kind of helps, but just come up with something. And we had no idea what they are going to come up with, right? Because this is really, it's a hard thing to tackle. And the result really it just blew our mind. Like, when you find a lot of talented people, passionate, energetic, young or not so young, and you put them into a group, you create a platform for them to think, to collaborate, and really interesting and magical things come out of it. So the result was a lot of really, really good ideas on how we could make the first step and how we could, let people use them. Things that we wouldn't even think of by themselves.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you, Danny. I think this was a really, really interesting framework and example. And this actually perfectly led me to my next question, which I wanted to ask from the ladies, actually. Because you mentioned that you have gathered, more than 18 or 20 people from 14 different nationalities. But this would lead me to the question, like, okay, but what are the cultural aspects that you would consider as important for startups or their frameworks? Because I assume that you also had to deal with these cultural differences in your framework. But let me ask, for instance, Zainab to answer this question. Like, do you think that there are anything that we should take into account in this session with regards to culture and cultural differences?
Well, that's a very tricky question. First of all, I would really appreciate how Daniel put together all of his thoughts in, getting together the ideas, because this is what I did when I started off. I went out and I knew that there are people in the market who are doing something relevant in the education field. I listened to them. I took their demos and I put together my team, and we did like a very detailed analysis on each and every feature. What are my strengths? What are their strengths? How I should improve? What they're doing, I shouldn't be reinventing the wheel. I should bring something new. This is how you identify the strength. This is one thing just I wanted to put in as a continuity of what Daniel put his thoughts in this session. And as far as the cultural frameworks are concerned, then I would say that in my country or developing countries, the scenario differs for everyone, especially when I talk about, now it depends what cultural parameters you're talking about and how you put, finger on those cultural parameters. If I talk about in Pakistan, the first thing that I believe is the digital isolation for the rural community. So the reach towards the available resources is in the urban areas, in the cities, in the big cities. What about those ideas that are somewhere in the slums, somewhere in the rural communities? great ideas, huge potential, but they don't know how they have to reach out to all of those resources which are available in the urban areas or in the cities or in the big pool where the incubators or accelerators are. So this, I think, is a cultural framework where you have to see the gaps or your challenges that you see in where you are based. And then, of course, in technology, I believe in developing countries, yes, there is a hesitation in gender, how the female come in the technology field and how they present themselves as compared to how the male are there. Because what I see is that there are fewer female-led technology innovations as compared to males. And that is because there are fewer females in the technology, or they come up with innovations as compared to the male. Recently, I wouldn't say that. I would like to mention that there was only a campaign for females built by the National Incubator Center in Karachi. And I think that focused on specifically this problem that females are not coming up in the innovation and technology innovation sector. So this is just one example that I would put forth, especially technology and innovation, combining it together in this perspective in developing countries.
Thanks for mentioning the Women in Tech initiative and notion, because I'm really proud of this session actually, where actually we are, out-represented by women, and it's really great that we have all of you here and sharing your experiences. So it's already, I think, a big step forward. But having said that, I just wanted to ask quickly Galina as well, that do you have any ideas how culture can come into the picture when we talk about startups, especially, for instance, like in your case, Russian startups hitting the global market?
Well, that is also a tricky subject to discuss, but let me start with just saying that in terms of innovation and startups, I think Russia has a huge potential, honestly. Maybe we're not at this stage where we would like to be, and it pains me to see how really promising startups sometimes not finding a proper investment have to go abroad, and we have like brain leak, that's how you call it. It is very, very sad sometimes. But I think in terms of cultural aspect, well, I can tell you, I can share what, for example, on a Russian example, can be improved in maybe other countries as well. So we do have some government programs that, related to digitalization, digital transformation. That's like the top right now. And we do have so many wonderful ICT startups with a huge potential from all Russian regions. But sometimes they are at the early stage and they need some investment. So I think in Russia, it's not enough yet investment culture. That's how I would say. That's why they have to go and find the investment somewhere abroad. But also, we do have some good examples, the startups also that are our alumni that were able to launch the project, launch a really cool startup, and got investment from abroad as well. So they have subsidiaries in Russia, in Asia, in Europe. But it takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of stamina not to give up, because you have to, knock on different doors. You have to protect your project in order to find the proper investor or to find the right one who will believe in your project and will be ready. So we do have some really wonderful examples of the technologies that scaled up their business abroad, and they're doing really well, even despite the COVID thing. So, yeah, but if talking overall, I think we do need more support system in our country for the startups and innovations in general. So.
Thanks a lot for sharing these thoughts. Let me ask another question, because what you were mentioning and we were discussing, this led me to another question that I just wanted to ask from Nidja. It is that, could you please just tell us again a nice story when you used a specific framework which was really helpful for an innovative project? You can of course talk about, for instance, cultural aspects as well, because I think that's really important in the global community. But if you have any other examples when a framework was extremely useful and helpful for a project or a startup, could you please share that story with us?
Sure. Some companies design their own frameworks. Last year, I had the honor to present, participate in this event as a winner, presenting a framework that was developed within the institute I work for. And it's called Tomorrow Lab. And the framework identifies and develops innovative solutions through empathy. Just explain a little bit of the framework to tell how we go about with it. Tomorrow Lab generates minimum viable products or proof of concepts that will be worked in the business modeling stage to evolve it into a startup, for instance. And nowadays we have a proof of concept that was developed using Tomorrow Lab that has subject treated that test-driven proof of concept, and that's currently being worked on and evolving to become a business. It's worth mentioning that one of the main risks that any startup faces at the beginning of its activities, it's not obtaining the necessary validation of the market tests. That's because the insights that generate the prototype idea could be creative, but sometimes it's not necessarily effective. So through this framework, we've been having a lot of great experience managing to reduce this risk, since the proof of the concept has already gone through stages of identifying the real problem and validations. In this modeling stage, we work other variables such as target audience, monetization, and a startup team. I could go on and on and on, but if anyone would like to get to know a little bit more about Tomorrow Lab, my contact will be available, and I'll be glad to discuss it more.
Thanks a lot. Sure, we'll do that afterwards. But I just wanted to ask, actually, from anyone who would like to take the floor, that do you have any other tips or hints for future innovation challenge members or participants when you're looking for the best frameworks, or anyone who is now starting an innovative project?
I could say that the best frameworks, in my opinion, are those frameworks that could be adjusted to your company's need and that can promote results that can connect you with the target audience. Earlier, Daniel was mentioned, made a comment on the link canvas that's not only the framework itself, but also what you can work on and what's all the variables that are around it. So just the framework and put all the variables together, and you have great chance of success.
And can I add one more layer to that? And I would be very much interested in your opinion, because we've been discussing, and as I also mentioned that in the previous session, the speakers mentioned that a mindset is really important. And then, frameworks and tools and best practices are there to drive the mindset. What do you think? What is the right mindset before you start an innovative, if I may ask that, or is there a right mindset, for instance? That would be a question. Would any of you have any thoughts about that?
That's a good question, Maté. I got to tell you. I completely agree. I think the mindset is the number one most important thing. And I don't think there is such a thing as the right mindset or as the perfect mindset for entrepreneurs. There's this saying that, entrepreneurs are not made, they are born. I don't think that's true. I think entrepreneurs are made. And basically, it all starts with the mindset. And I think really the most important, there are a few very important things. One of them is really, just the eagerness of figuring out the solution, the eagerness of helping other people. like the eagerness of solving a problem, which really, again, like makes other people's life easier and better. And then persistence, because that's a big one, right? There's so many good ideas, so many companies which starts with a great idea trying to tackle the world, but as soon as you go down that road, especially when you are trying to really tackle big industries and bring in innovation and bring in your new solution to big industries, there will be so many roadblocks, so many challenges that you will have to face, and they will try to stop. Is a really persistence is key, I think, for these startup founders to push it through whatever it takes. I think that is probably, these are the important things, by my opinion, or that's what I'm trying to advocate when I talk to entrepreneurs. Like, are you ready for it? Okay, why are you trying? Why do you want to do it, right? If you have the good answer for why, then whatever challenge will come in front of you, you will probably be able to overcome one way or the other. But that why has to be very strong.
Thanks a lot. Maybe anyone else?
Yeah, I would like to actually add on top what Daniel said, that every technology, every startup is born, first of all, because of the need of changing something. So when you realize that, okay, I have this idea because I want to change this. So you have to keep it along the way and not forget where you initially came from. That the idea to change something, make something better, should become like your, motto. You shouldn't forget why you started all this, why you started to go through all the ups and downs with your project, because you're a change maker. So you want to make a change, you want to make a better world, a better place, give more opportunities, and just to test your limits. It's also important. So yeah, just always keep in mind why you started everything, just because you want to change and make something better. So that's a good mindset, I think.
Thanks a lot for sharing this, because I think this perfectly explains why we are here today and actually what are the main goals of the entire event and the session today. Having said that, I think now it's time to give the virtual floor to Victoria Masso from Behavior Hackers to share the results of the boards that were actually created in the meanwhile with everyone. And after that, I'm going to be back and I will ask all of you to make a very short 30-second concluding statement of the session. But before going to that, let us look at the mural together and let Victoria share the results with everyone, please.
Hi everyone, I hope you can see me. Actually, it's going to be Mo and me who's going to be talking through this. Really quickly, so just to repeat what Maté said, we had the community co-creating on a different room, and we brought their ideas together here, plus all the amazing interventions that all of you guys did. So it was very, very interesting. Thank you so much for summing in. So in ecosystem framework, we have a few bits and pieces. Just to remind you again of the colors. Green was good practices, yellow were ideas, and orange were tools. So if we go to ecosystem, we have building alumni networks, corporate accelerators, which is super important to be able to foster ecosystem building in corporate private sector. We have mentoring programs. These are all best practices. Tax incentive for working with different stakeholders. Again, ecosystem is all about collaboration and understanding how to collaborate with each other to be able to push innovation forward. So those are very good. We have soft landing and smart landing, which was mentioned here. Ecosystem mapping, super important, understanding what resources you have. So we talked about this already, how you cannot just copy paste an initiative. So understanding who is involved, what resources we have, and what can we do with it, and what stage are we on. As an ecosystem, as a region, as a country, that's super, super important. And it was mentioned, especially when you guys are talking about developing countries and developed countries. So that's very, very good. We have also channeling other ecosystem funds to support developing ecosystem ideas. and we have creating network for our communities, all very valid best practices. When we're talking about tools, we have ITU actually, which is quite interesting. They put them here. So we have Ecosystem Canvas from the ITU, the Maturity Map tool. There's a lot of resources that are free as well on the ITU website related to this. That are all about ecosystem building. So you should check them out. But they're mentioned here. Co-creation workshops to share insights. Again, very good into understanding resources and the stakeholders involved. Country studies, super important. Again, same idea. And that's it for tools. That's very good. And for ideas, you can see more organized in there. We have the need to navigate challenges within ecosystems. That's good. Identify resources and problems, not the copy-paste initiative. We actually also heard that in some of our previous talks, which is super important. We cannot go and just pretend that we can replicate an ecosystem somewhere else. We have to understand our own network that can help you tap into multiple resources. Understanding the culture, making sure trainings are provided to collaborate, and that's it. So all this seem very interesting. These are other results of the community and what you guys have talked about. I don't know, Mo, if you would like to add anything to it.
I think that's it on my side.
Okay, great. Amazing. So this is all about how do you foster the mindset of ecosystem, or what frameworks can you take? Then we go into innovation frameworks. So very interesting with the tools, and I was 100% sure this was going to come up. Design thinking to be able to create innovative projects. Effectuation tools. Again, design thinking, we actually had it 2 times. Empathy tools, very well said, Nieja, as well. You were talking about empathy, so important. Qualitative and quantitative interviewing to understand the owners of the problems. And that's it for tools that we can use to be able to foster that innovation mindset. Let's see, when we go to best practices, research and innovation policy incentive. That one is super important because we tend to see now in academia sometimes the research that is funded actually doesn't relate to the problems that a country can have or a population can have. And so how are we actually making that connection? Well, we should start bringing incentive that make that the research is actual applicable research, not just documentation that is created for no one to read. So it's super important. I love that one. Financial safety net for individuals that want to become entrepreneurs to innovate. Again, this was also mentioned in one of our previous sessions, actually the fire starter session. What else do we have? We have make your own framework to learn from experiments. Okay, so I guess that would mean something around the lines of being able to develop your own innovative framework. So that's a best practice.
Yeah, this was in relation to the fact that you have multiple frameworks and you have to experiment with a couple and just make your own.
Oh, that's it. Okay, yes. And then in terms of ideas, there's no universal framework, which is very, very true. And again, we keep seeing this repeated over and over again. Market context is important. Different views and strategies and insights, matchmaking to create new innovation. Again, we'll go back to the resources, platforms for collaboration, comprehensive policies for funding, initiatives that are, again, same thing, initiatives that are applicable for research to innovation, training to find problems and solutions, which I guess takes us back to the tools. And that's it. So those are very good ideas for innovation, to foster the innovation mindset. Again, if anyone in the chat has other points of view or ideas of what should be included in this ecosystem and innovation framework, and even in culture and entrepreneurial, that'll be great. You can still let us know. We'll still be reading the chat. Let's see, cultural frameworks, my favorite. So we have, in terms of tools, we have the ethic canvas, the empathy map, the future workforce index, the storytelling canvas. We have a culture of pitches and hackathons. Okay, so that could be a tool or an idea or a best practice.
What we see here is that you have the way you actually build a culture of innovation, of culture of all this, is that all these events and hackathons and all of these things that happen creates the community, and this is where people get inspired and they actually sustain this culture or these digital communities.
Mm-hmm. And then the other tool that we have is events for the innovation communities, again, related to the same point of hackathons. And that's it. So I would assume that the tools that you are using here, so the tools that we are mentioning here are tools that will foster that culture. There's a lot of places where you find that people do not become entrepreneurs because there's not a culture that allows them to do so. So it is very good that we find those frameworks. Ideas. So we have methodological thinking, innovation, gender divide, which was a point that was raised during the conversation. Trust issues in the ecosystem. Yeah. So are there trust issues? Again, we go back to the culture. Resilience training. That's very important as well. And also entrepreneurs are made eager to solve a problem. So it's all these cultural issues. Culture of listening, problem focus. Again, instead of creating innovations that don't solve problems, but create more problems, we should have we have to actually go and create a culture that tries to solve real problems. Passion and persistence in the ecosystem, organizational culture of collaboration and cooperation, and I love this one, is the problem worth your time as an entrepreneur? That is such a good question. It goes back to, are we problem focused? Are we understanding the issues in the ecosystem? And are we culturally ready to actually be able to solve these issues? So yeah, that's
another way to put it is, do you really want to be an entrepreneur? Because most people are not cut to be entrepreneurs. You should just go work for somebody and just accept it. In terms of time, I think we're losing interpretation in less than a minute, Victoria. Maybe if we can go to the last one.
Okay, quickly. Entrepreneurial support, mindset change for entrepreneurs. That's best practices, pitching and financial support for be able to support entrepreneurship. Just basically general support to get the entrepreneurs to be able to be entrepreneurs and feel safe. Tools, business model and tools, link canvas mentioned here, coaching support for entrepreneurs, and just ideas at the end, knowledge to create businesses, taking your ideas to market, need support dependent on ecosystem maturity, hypothesis and rapid testing approaches, discipline and systematic entrepreneurship, accelerated drain brains due to startup fight, and more support services for startups, and also support to find talents, which is an issue sometimes when it comes to entrepreneurship.
Can we ask for our interpreters if we can have just 5 minutes to wrap up this session, if that's okay with you? Okay, perfect. So we have 5 minutes to wrap up.
Okay. Mo, you want to wrap up?
I think we leave that pleasure to Maté for the great discussion.
Yeah, sure. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Victoria and Mo, for summarizing the co-creation board for us. I think it's a very, very amazing collection of ideas and tools. And I think we really nailed this panel today because we have this very, very nice result. So, dear all panelists, as we are nearing the end of the panel, could you please make a very short 30-second statement, concluding statement that you would like to share with everyone, either about the session today or just in general?
I'd like to encourage organizations, everyone who is participating on this panel today, to go beyond frameworks and focus on people, as well as investing time on creative thinking based on empathy and collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I can be next. So I think, first of all, that it's important that such a forum is organized. So maybe the startups or owners of the companies that are only in the beginning of their innovation journey join our session today, that they were able to find some very valuable information, some tools, interesting ideas. And I just want to say that don't be afraid to innovate. That's also important to know.
Thank you. Zainab?
Yeah, I think I would just say that when you start your journey, it's just a start. Brace yourself and gear up. You don't have to give up. It's just a start, and let all the roadblocks come. Challenge yourself and your potentials will come out, and eventually you will succeed. The first reason you start is the reason that you will continue. So I think that's one thing that I want to share with everyone who is listening.
Thank you. And Daniel?
I really liked what Neet just said about focus on people. Couldn't agree more. Focus on building meaningful relationship with people, because they are going to be the one who can help you on the way. Focus on relationships and, reach out to them, especially nowadays when Zoom calls became the norm. We don't need to be in the same country anymore. I can just write you a message like, hey, can you help me out? And then, people just, yeah, let's jump on Zoom, and boom, your problem is solved. So reach out, build meaningful relationship and use them. I mean, in the good sense, obviously. So.
Well, thank you. Thank you all for attending our panel today, and let me thank the speakers for their valuable inputs. I think it was extremely important what we just discussed today. So by this, let me just close this session and then conclude our day of the Global Innovation Forum organized by ITU. And please do not forget that there is a networking session which just starts now, which is called the Virtual Reality Beach Party. So I think it should be very, very interesting, and I would suggest everyone to join. And don't forget, see you tomorrow and stay safe. Thanks a lot, everyone.